Okay, everybody, I'm so excited to be reviewing the new Netflix limited series, Sirens. This is my spoiler review, so make sure you watch the full season first before you jump into this. So, I was really excited that we had a show like this coming out. I feel like we need more shows like this that have that juice to it, that are exciting. There's mystery and great actresses involved, and I was so excited seeing the cast for this. Seeing it's a three-hander between Millie Alcock, notoriously known for playing young Rhaenyra Targaryen, and she's going to be playing Supergirl. Meghann Fahy, who right now is skyrocketing in fame, and the legendary Julianne Moore. So, what could you not like here? So, I'm going to break down my review into episode by episode, and I'll give my general thoughts. And it's funny, right away from episode one, just how many shows that have come out like this, though, that star Nicole Kidman. It was funny when you're first adjusting to the character of Michaela and that it's not Nicole Kidman, especially because this feels like Stepford Wives, and they even allude to Stepford Wives with a line in this show. But having Nicole Kidman, who starred in the Stepford Wives movies, is just funny that it's like, okay, it's actually someone not Nicole Kidman playing a role like this, which was nice to see that they switched it up and you have Julianne Moore taken on, which was great. I also like that they had Fahy playing against type from a totally different type of character than her character in White Lotus, so that was really good. And we get to see Millie Alcock not be someone in a Game of Thrones universe. So all these things had me very intrigued with their performances right from the start, and I think it was really smart they did this show in their careers, and it really makes them stand out how talented they all are. Now, watching the first episode, you see how much humor is in it, especially with the character of Devon, played by Meghann Fahy, and she adds so much to it. And I feel like some of this had to be improvised because there's so many quick lines she throws in, and just her mannerisms that elevate the script in this show. Just lines like "I f two guys on a boat today." But what wasn't working as much for me just in episode one to start was it did feel like there were some scenes that it was missing underlying music. You can feel it, like it's just a weird hollowness, or it's just too much reliance on dialogue with no actual ambiance in the background, whether it be music or just sound, which felt really weird. But what really was a highlight for me in episode one was the contrast between Devon and Simone, and not only in what we're learning about them, is that also shown through the editing, and that it was colored that way too, and the clothes they're wearing, and that you see what this show is going to do, where you're really going to go through Devon's eyes in this show and watch Devon have to go undercover into the Simone lifestyle. They also had really good match cuts in the first episode. I like in the editing where it shows Simone's Instagram photo and it actually cuts that real location. And there's enough mystery set up here where you're thinking cult, you're thinking there's cameras on the property, what is going on with this Michaela character, and having, like I said, that Stepford Wives vibe. So for episode one, I gave it a 7.8. I think it was enough on the bone there to be excited and intrigued in what was going to happen. Now, episode two, titled Talons, this is where it really picked up for me. I thought there was great pace in this episode, and the humor with Devon was just so good in this episode. I actually enjoyed just the moment when she was in prison there with that other character who's great and come back later on, and that she gives her a half braid. But the joy of being with Devon going undercover, as a Stepford wife, we'll call it. And even the spa masks were great with the characters who are supposed to be like fates. And I even laughed out loud at the moment where the server was pretending only to know Spanish at first until she realized that it was Devon she was talking to. But this is where Kevin Bacon is introduced to the show. And it's interesting, we don't meet him till episode two. And he plays it really well because he's a tough read. There's parts you like about him, and then you find out things you don't like about him. So he's a complicated character, which was good. And we get moments of that dark comedy, which is just funny, right? Where like Michaela has this eulogy for the Falcon, Barnaby, and when you first hear them say, hey, hey, it's such a silly thing, and I'm glad we'll see by the end what it really means, which is actually really nothing. But Simone here is found out to be with Ethan, and this is played by Glenn Howerton, who I actually thought was miscast in the role. There was something about his performance that just didn't really feel right in this show, but thankfully it's not that big of a part that it like deterred the show for me that much, but I did feel like he was miscast here. But Simone now being found out about being with Ethan, the terror that comes upon Simone now that she feels about Michaela shocks you too, and seeing her having this panic attack was very intense. It cripples her, and this is where Devon finds her. And it's a nice cliffhanger, and it's been set up in season one. We learn about their backstory and Devon taking care of Simone with all of the trauma they went through with their parents. So this episode I give an 8.3. I think, like I said, it picked up And the humor was exciting being undercover with Devon and how well it showed you the fear Simone actually had of this person she idolized in Michaela. Now, episode 3, Monster, was my favorite of the season. This is where so much happens in a good way. Like, you would say this is juicy. We learn that the mom killed herself in the car with Simone in the car, and Devon saved her. So it's just ginormous trauma to actually be in that situation with your mom. And you get the crazy scene now with Michaela's in the bathtub, very Siren vibes, sucking in Devon, and she's feeling her trauma. She's getting those claws in it they've alluded to, and she asks her who takes care of Devon. Now, I want to talk about the Siren moment here because obviously, to me, Devon, Michaela, and Simone are all Sirens, and it's just alluded to, right? And that it's not as fantasized as you'd see Sirens in other shows. They keep it grounded, which I liked, but it's there, and it's really shown when they do the extreme close-up on any of those characters talking to somebody, and you see that it's out of focus around them. That feels like the Siren song moment. And you see that like in the scene with the bathtub with Michaela talking to Devon. But I'm going to point out where I think there's a big moment in the finale that's alluded to with Simone and Devon of them being Sirens, even though you see it visually hinted at clearly. I did think in this episode, though, it was fun seeing Devon with the 3 Fate women in dress shopping. I thought was really just funny scenes. And Kevin Bacon here's really putting on the charm here as Peter. And while that's happening, Simone is spying on him, and then they have fishing together, and he kisses her. Now, with a show like this, you would think that it would stop there because she pulls back and it's going to change. But it's interesting that the story ends up where it is. It's actually shocking. And I like they went the not easy route to predict here. And we're already seeing hints that Michaela is not this character that she's hinted to be, like this villain, because there's a misdirect here on Ethan, that Ethan didn't kill her because he shows up with the dad because he asked if he could propose to his daughter. So that leaves another fun cliffhanger here. The script here is solid. It's not amazing, but these first 3 episodes, you see the cast is completely elevating it to another level. So it's fun and things are happening, which I was happy about, because sometimes Netflix shows in this kind of case can kind of sputter out at certain points. Unfortunately, I'm going to say that episode 4, speaking of sputtering out Netflix shows, episode 4 is a big come down for me, my least favorite. I thought the first half hour actually just leaned into the silly way too much for my taste. I know it's part of the tone, but it became the show that first half hour. Everything with Ethan just dragged on a bit. Again, I think that character almost was just unnecessary at points and didn't really pan out, and you see Peter kind of takes on that role anyway. So I see him as point in the show, but I think they gave him too much screen time at this point, and it was just really too much. Especially only 5 episodes in a season, so it felt weird. That just felt padded. The strongest scene in this episode was with Devon and Simone having that serious talk, and we learned about the father neglecting Simone after the tragedy of what happened to their mother, and why she ended up in foster care, and that she was abused in foster care and wants nothing to do with her father, Bruce. So it gives a great explanation of where her head's at, and why she's the opposite of her experience than Devon, and why Devon's still willing to take care of the father and be around him, where Simone is completely have this life of running away from that and making a new family. And again, the show teases you because it makes you think, well, it's going to surprise you and that they'll come back home and everything be happy-dappy, but you see that's not the case. It is sad when you see, though, the Bruce, who's confused, is connecting with Michaela and seeing her as his wife, Andrea. And I think it's also a little hint to the audience that she's not villainous either, that there's probably good in her, like the mother probably had. And Michaela reveals she struggled to have kids with Peter. We're seen as the audience of villainizing her, but Peter villainizes her about what happened with his kids. But you'll see later on, she will yell at him and call him out like, no, this is your problem. You're the one who pursued me. You're the one who ruined your marriage. And you're the one who villainized me to your children. Like the show kind of villainizes us to her. Now, what the humor that did work for me in the second half of this episode was Devon being followed by the 3 guys who are basically obsessed with her, including the guy she slept with once who just works there. And at the same time, Ethan falls off a cliff, calling Simone a monster. Now, that is the first case where it's clear to me that Simone is a siren, and that he alludes to in the hospital bed in the finale that she pushed him off the cliff, and I think she definitely did as the siren. And this is alluded to now because we'll see Devon's boss that she was sleeping with, he'll go into the water, and he'll allude when he's in jail talking to her that she was like encouraging him to leave. So I think that was also her in that siren mode she's not recognizing. Now, at the end of this episode, though, before we get into the finale, Peter and Michaela finally have an honest conversation. They get on the same page for a moment. It's like they see eye to eye, but it's broken up because a photographer that was in the season earlier just happens to be taking photos where Simone and Peter were, and shares a photo to Michaela of Simone and Peter kissing, which, you know, that was like really silly because it was so like coincidental that he was there and took that photo. So that was like, okay, come on. But that added to my dislike for this episode. I think the quality dropped for sure. And it was definitely the worst episode of the season, especially that first half, but it gets better in the second half. So I'm going to give this one a 6.8. So now we go to the finale, Siren Song. The beginning's a little rushed here. I feel like they could have made this show 6 episodes instead of 5, which I thought was strange. I'm always someone who loves shorter episodes and having less episodes, but I did think it could have used a little more time seeing how the pacing was a little off these final 2 episodes. Because especially just the feeling of Simone leaving, and then Simone comes back, so they had like the final climax happen where everything hits the fan, and then everything kind of resolves itself really quick, where I really wish they would have had the whole climax be 1 episode, and then the final episode be the resolution. But I do like the ending was not what you expected here, that Devon stays with the dad, and Simone becomes the new Michaela. It just felt rushed, but it definitely was earned through the season. I just think in the actual episode itself, it was so fast. And I like that Michaela wasn't this villain we're expected her to be in all these crazy reveals. She just wasn't a cult leader. She didn't kill Jocelyn. Jocelyn was sent away, basically. And that Peter's really in charge here, which was alluded to, but you see he really is the head honcho. And it's crazy that Simone ends up with him, and that she's just living this life of Michaela, and how Michaela explains to Devon they're all kind of taking that role with Peter, and she lasted a longer time than Jocelyn, so we'll see what happens with Simone. And Devon here has a scene, it's so well acted here by Meghann Fahy, who's just incredible. I mean, really, really good. She's so dynamic as an actress. She has that charm. She can do humor, and she can just kill these serious scenes like she did in White Lotus. And what I love about this role compared to White Lotus, it really got to show her humor more, which was great, and her versatility. But Devon had to let go of Simone. This is a big moment here, and she even says that to her, and why she's staying with her dad. But she has to like see that this is the life Simone has chosen. We've been there with siblings where you choose different paths, and that part of she took care of Simone her whole life, and then coming to save her and realizing that she couldn't be saved and had to kind of let that go and stop being the caretaker, I thought really worked. And I thought it really worked that they didn't have Devon just kind of sell out to be like a Simone and have her lifestyle, and that doesn't fit her, and that it fits right now in her life being with her father and taking care of him, but letting go of that aspect with Simone and letting her be her own person. And it's, you know, interesting, Simone's story, and she's always running. You see in this episode, she runs the minute her dad's proposing him be with her again, like literally runs. And I thought that really worked, and that it makes sense she went back to Peter, and that unfortunately she's with Peter, who is not a trustworthy, not a great guy, I don't think. And it sets up to me a season 2 now, especially with Simone and her being now the new Michaela, and maybe having someone be our new Simone come into the show, which I think would be interesting. So I'm going to give the finale an 8. I think it just had serious pacing issues, but a lot of stuff paid off to me, and I like they went the more realistic route with Michaela's resolution. Adding up all the scores of the season for me, I'm going to give the season score of the show a 7.8. I think it was good. I don't think it was bad, and that makes me relieved because, you know, Netflix can go all over the place with quality, and I thought this was good. I think the acting is what brought it up for me. I think the story was there, but I think it could have been better. I think with what they had and the cast they had and the concept they had, this could have knocked it out of the park. But I do think, like I said, Glenn Howerton was miscast. I think they were missing a type of character too. Like, I feel like there should have been a guy character here who was just funnier. I feel like that would have been great as well. I feel like that was kind of missing for a show like this. And maybe Glenn Howerton was supposed to be that, but again, I don't know why I'm hating on his character so much, but I just am. I just feel like he just didn't fit here. I think that this show definitely had pacing issues. I think episodes 2, 3, and the finale were the best, with 2 and 3 being its peak. I think 1 took a little bit to get going, and 4 was just not good. But for a Netflix show, I think by not being 10 episodes, probably saved it from crashing and burning. And it made me intrigued for season 2. Would I watch a season 2? Yes, I would. And I think that having the strength of Meghann Fahy and Millie Alcock being in the show again would be great. I think that Julianne Moore's character is resolved, so I don't think we'd see her again. But her here was an excellent performance. The acting really, again, is what made this show stand out. I think if you like these actresses, you're going to like this show. And if you like vibes like Stepford Wives, you're going to like this show. So I think it's satisfied for me, someone who's a fan of all those things. But I can sit there and wonder, could have this been amazing? Absolutely. And it just wasn't. But I'm happy it's not terrible. It could have been terrible. That's really what I have to say for it. I think it paid off a lot of the storylines well with bad pacing at a lot of parts and just missing some things here and there. But overall, I enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts of the show, what you could see happening if they do a season 2. Can you see a season 2? Things you liked, you didn't like. Please subscribe. It means so much to me. I also review The Handmaid's Tale at the moment, The Rehearsal, and I do celebrity interviews. And I'll see you next time.